The leather seat felt cold beneath Mason Rourke as he shifted in the back of the rideshare car, watching the auto shop come into view through the rain-speckled window. It was the third one he'd visited in person this month, part of a business his father had built from nothing and left him 5 years ago, a chain of 8 repair garages scattered across the state. At first, things had gone well. Business boomed. Employees smiled. Customers left satisfied. But lately, complaints rolled in nonstop, wait times ballooning, repairs redone, customer service slipping fast. Every time Mason asked his district manager, Calvin, for answers, he got the same runaround. Supply issues, staffing's been tight, or customers expect too much. Mason didn't buy it anymore. So he made a decision. No more spreadsheets. No more middlemen. He went undercover. He let his beard grow in a bit, wore an old hoodie and oil-stained jeans, and introduced himself as Matt. None of the technicians had ever met him personally. Just seen the framed photo of his father hanging in break rooms or the rare all-hands email from corporate. That anonymity was now his shield. Garage number 3 was supposedly one of the top-performing shops, the crown jewel if Calvin was to be believed. As Mason stepped onto the cracked asphalt and headed inside, he reminded himself to listen more than talk. The manager didn't even look up when he entered. "You the new guy?" asked the man, who had a gut pushing against a faded polo and a voice coded in disinterest. "Yeah, Matt," Mason replied. "Grab a shirt. Shadow someone. Don't mess things up. No introductions. No safety overview. Not even a nod." Mason changed in the grimy bathroom, wincing at the sour mix of mildew and engine grease. As he stepped into the shop, the air stung with the tang of burnt oil. Bays were full, customers pacing impatiently outside the glass window. It looked busy, sure, but something felt wrong. He spotted a young woman under the hood of a sedan, knuckles bloodied, sweat darkening the back of her shirt. "Need a hand?" he asked, approaching. "You're Matt, right?" she replied without looking up. "I'm Lena Cruz. Hold the light, will ya?" As Mason held the flashlight steady, he noticed her tools were in pitiful shape, cracked sockets, warped wrenches, a ratchet wrapped with duct tape. "These any good?" "They're junk," Lena muttered. "I've been asking for replacements for months. Management won't approve? They tell me to figure it out." Before he could respond, the manager barked across the floor. "Lena, quit dragging your feet. That car's been sitting." Then to Mason, "You clean up that bay." Mason swallowed his response and got to work. Throughout the day, he watched as mechanics worked barehanded because gloves were out of stock. A teenager named Dev got reprimanded for sipping water. A customer got snapped at for asking when her car would be done. The place wasn't short-staffed, it was mismanaged, broken in ways Mason hadn't seen on paper. That night, Mason sat across from Lena in the tiny break room, the cracked Formica table sticky with dried soda. "You like it here?" he asked. "I like fixing things," she answered. "Hate everything else. But I'm saving for trade school, so." Mason stared up at a ceiling tile sagging with water damage. Anger and guilt burned in his chest. His dad had built this place on values. What had he let it become? The next morning, Mason got there before dawn. The sky still held the color of bruises, and a thin fog hugged the ground. Lena limped into the shop just after him. "You all right?" "Rolled my ankle yesterday. Ain't got time to rest." Inside, the flickering lights buzzed to life. As Mason punched in, a sharp voice cut through the space. "Matt, get in here." It was Calvin. In the cramped office, Calvin leaned against a desk that looked more like a trash pile. "Listen," he said, reeking of cheap cologne and ego. "We got inspections next week. You see anything weird, you keep your mouth shut." Mason stared at him. "Sure. You're lucky to be here. Don't screw it up." Back on the floor, Lena was under a lifted pickup. Dev was half asleep by the tire racks. Another tech, a guy named Greg, leaned against the wall glued to his phone while a customer tapped the counter impatiently. "Greg," Mason called. "There's someone waiting." "Not my job," Greg said flatly. Mason stepped up and addressed the customer himself. "I'll check on your wife's car." "Ford Escape," the man grunted. "Supposed to be done yesterday." Mason asked Lena. "It's ready." Greg was supposed to call the guy. Mason's stomach turned. He walked straight to Greg. "The Ford's done. Why didn't you call him?" Greg shrugged. "Wasn't my shift." By noon, the shop was chaos. Dev dropped a brake part because his hands were shaking. He hadn't eaten. Lena pushed through her limp, never sitting once. When Mason urged her to rest, she said, "If I fall behind, they cut my hours." Then it happened. A woman, probably in her 60s, politely asked Calvin for a status update. Calvin laughed and said, loud enough for all to hear, maybe if you didn't drive such a heap, you wouldn't be in here so often. She flushed and walked out. Mason stepped forward. That's not how you treat customers. Calvin turned, smirking. You got a problem, Matt? Yeah, Mason said, yanking off his grease-stained shirt and tossing it on the floor. I do. Everyone froze. I'm Mason Rourke. I own this company. The room went silent. Greg nearly dropped his phone. Lena stood up, eyes wide. Calvin's face went gray. You're full of it, Calvin muttered. Mason pulled out his ID and held it high. I trusted people to run this place right. But this, he gestured around, isn't right. He turned back to Calvin. You're done. Leave. Now. Calvin stormed out, slamming the office door. Mason faced Greg. You too. If you won't respect the customers or your team, you're out. Greg sputtered, but left. Mason turned to the team. You all deserve better. And starting now, you're going to get it. He looked at Lena. Take the rest of the day off. Paid. Lena blinked, speechless. Dev, go eat. Company's buying. The young man choked back tears. I'm bringing in someone I trust tomorrow. We're shutting down early today. You're all getting paid in full. Outside, Mason called his assistant. Get HR, full audit across all locations. And find me a new district manager. The next morning, a white sedan pulled up to the shop. Out stepped a woman in a blazer and boots, Ally Tran, a no-nonsense operations expert Mason had worked with before. No speeches, she said. One-on-ones. People I less alone. Inside, the shop was eerily quiet. Lena limped through her tasks. Dev stacked tires carefully. Two other techs, Daryl and Trent, leaned against a wall, watching everything. Mason offered to help Lena with a heavy rim. You should be off that ankle. We're short, she said. I'll manage. Ally started interviews immediately. An hour later, she pulled Mason aside. Daryl's lazy. Trent admitted to skipping steps. Lena's your anchor. Dev's green, but trying. Keep Lena and Dev, Mason said. Let the others go. He fired Daryl and Trent that afternoon. Not because I'm cleaning house, Mason said. Because I'm protecting what matters. Later, Ally said, we need to close for repairs. Full clean, restock, inspections. Mason nodded. Do it. Every tool request Lena ever made? Fill it. He addressed the crew. We're closing for 3 days. You'll be paid. When we reopen, it'll be different. 3 days later, the garage gleamed. New tools. Painted walls. Fresh uniforms. Coffee in the waiting area. Lena and Dev returned early, eyes wide at the transformation. This is your shop now too, Mason said. Speak up if something's wrong. You sticking around this time? Lena asked. I'm not vanishing, Mason replied. Customers arrived. Lena took charge. Dev handled intake with care. Mistakes happened, but they owned them and fixed them quickly. In the break room that afternoon, Mason said, you crushed it today. And we're just getting started. We're hiring more help, rolling this out at every shop. Ally passed out a new handbook. Paid sick leave. Annual tool stipends. No more duct tape wrenches, Mason said. Lena flipped the pages slowly. Feels like a real company now. It is, Mason answered. That night, Mason and Ally reviewed glowing feedback. One line stood out. Best service I've ever received. Ally smiled. Lena's a leader. I know, Mason said. Outside, the neon sign buzzed softly. Mason thought about everything, what had broken, what they were building. Lena joined him outside. You sure you're staying? He looked at her and smiled. Absolutely. We're just getting started. She smiled back, genuine this time. Good, she said. Because we are.